welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about Tomorrowland for What the Hell Is This? Now this is one of those What the Hell Is This is basically a film that in lots of ways is a disaster, but I personally like it. But it's weird. This is probably the most fun I had in What the Hell Was This is while watching the film. Because I saw the film after it was released just in Blu-ray, and I enjoyed it, and I've just rewatched it recently and I've enjoyed it even more. But it is one of those films that's like it's a sci-fi film. It's a weird, preachy sci-fi film that was never going to reach everybody, and it's like you spent a fortune in this film, and it's like, I'm glad you made it, but I don't see how you expected to make a fortune out of it, because it's too much of a sci-fi movie, like a proper sci-fi movie, rather than a fantasy sci-fi movie like Star Wars or Star Trek, which are much more about aliens and lots of eye candy. This one's much more like, yeah, we have some fun sequences. There's lots of things showing you the potential future and the potential of the future, and you get some great scenes in Tomorrowland where you're seeing the idealistic version of Tomorrowland of what it could be, and you get a lot of good sci-fi templates being shown to you. And obviously Brad Bird, who directed it, loves all that stuff. But it's still in service of a sci-fi idea that's so you have lots of sequences like that to keep it fun, but everything's still in service of a sci-fi idea that means you have to think rather than will give you a kind of a few things to ponder, and that's it, which is normal sci-fi these days. You don't really, in sci-fi, you don't tend to get things to make you think too much. And this one's actually making you think of your own behaviour and why you've been so pessimistic about everything and where that could lead. Which works well for Tomorrowland, but I think it's just one of those things is like, if you're going to do this film, you had to do it at a lower budget from what they spent the money on. And they spent a fortune in this thing, and it's just like, it just became this thing of, you're not going to get enough people, unless you really pull it off, you're not going to get a ton of people to watch this thing. And they didn't really pull it off. But it's one of those ones that's like, it's sort of like John Carter, which was another Disney film from this era. Or The Lone Ranger, it's another Disney film from this era as well. It was a financial disaster, but it's very enjoyable. It's more fun than a lot of the successes. And it's a lot less soulless than a lot of successes. And I really like it. And so the idea is this girl finds this little button on her in her possession, which she doesn't know where it came from. She finds this after she's been arrested. She's trying to sabotage the deconstruction of some of the NASA stuff. That the NASA's getting closed down. A lot of its rocket stuff getting closed down. People have lost interest in the future. People have just gotten depressed about life in general. And basically, just life Earth is just becoming more and more depressed. All the horrible stories of typhoons, the environment, everything else has just gotten to people, and they've just lost interest in the future, basically. She finds this signal about this place called Tomorrowland, which is about everything works, everything's beautiful, very Disney. It's based on the Disney idea of Tomorrowland. And it's about her trying to find out where this Tomorrowland is and what's happened to it and why she get this thing. What was the point of her getting this thing? And there's this little girl who's helping her. And this little girl is a robot girl. And she's trying to help her find a guy called Frank, played by George Clooney, who was once a young inventor who became disillusioned. And all three of them have to go on a journey to try and save Tomorrowland. Now the problem with the film is that's the tagline and trailers and everything else, and it sounds kind of a weird Disney throwback to the 50s. And it's like, save Tomorrowland. There's a journey. It seems very twee, but the film's not very twee. But they never got that across in the marketing. And also the film as it goes on, it's about the darkness within humanity of how it can't actually be optimistic, how it has to always go towards pessimism, which is kind of preachy, which goes against the idea of show don't tell, don't preach to your audience, it's bad for the audience, which is another way of saying don't have ideas, just stick to the same cliches, which in some ways is a prison in itself as a concept, because the big problem in American film, and one of the reasons why it's so insular, is it's stuck to this idea of don't be pretentious, don't be ambitious, just stick to the same old formulas, which are very comforting to people, and that's it. And if you've got ambition, and if you're going to go far out with stuff, we're going to attack you for it. Just stick to the conventions of what things are socially acceptable, and you'll be fine. But no thoughts, please. No criticisms. No nothing that's make us uncomfortable. And that's modern cinema. You might get people saying, "Oh, Barbie was so progressive and so brave," and it really wasn't. It was a fun film, but it was not like this big idea-led film. It was just a fun film about the variety of things that men and women do to each other because they can be silly and very kind of myopic. That's as far as it tends to get in mainstream film. Do not have ideas, just have little observations about what life is, and we're fine. Because if you want ideas, we're going to think you're pretentious, maybe you're a bit above yourself, and don't put your head above the partition or get chopped off. That thing is very much in society, in every society basically. And it can be very destructive, because it can create a level of easy, acceptance of things when maybe you should actually be saying some of this stuff's nonsense. A lot of ideas are not being looked at, and that's leading us into this cul-de-sac, which is what this film's about. But it is preachy with it. It's the problem is it doesn't quite pull off the preachiness, the idea of we become so depressed and so insular that we're heading towards the end of the world. And the whole plot point is the end of the world. There is a point where there's no way to change anything. The world's going to end, and it turns out the reason for that is Tomorrow's been feeding depression to humanity because of the way humanity's reacted to things, and that's led to a circular thing of we make it worse, so it makes us worse. We make it worse, and it becomes a cycle of depression, which is a good idea, but there's a way to see it, which this film kind of doesn't quite get. It doesn't quite pull it off. But I'd much rather a film do something like that awkwardly and say, look, try and be more optimistic and try and not be so depressing and get it a little bit wrong. I'd rather that than, oh, everything's going to hell, we're doomed, blah, blah, blah. Or just a very conventional thinking leading us to the grave base, which is what we're getting nowadays, which is this idea of stay in your corner, stay in your tribe, and don't step out your tribe, because that could lead you to be embarrass yourself or something, when what you really need to do now is just say this stuff people are saying, this tribal stuff, stupid. And the whole film's really about stepping out and saying we can be optimistic, we don't have to be this pessimistic. It's not quite pulled off. You get feeling it was a script that needed a bit more work before they went ahead with the film, because performances are fine, the action scenes are a lot of fun. I mean, there's an action in a shop that's really enjoyable. There's a scene where Clooney's house gets invaded, and it's great as well. And there's a scene at Eiffel Tower which is terrific. There's lots of really cool scenes. There's an action scene at the end which is very enjoyable. There's lots of fun stuff, and Brad Bird's very good at these kind of weird action scenes that's charming and silly and fun. All the Tomorrowland stuff's terrific visually. Everything's really good. It's just that the script's not quite there yet. The script is done by Brad Bird and Damon Lindelof. Lindelof gets a lot of abuse because of the end of Lost, and they like trashing him, even though he's actually a writer with ambitions. And it's like, and it was a perfect example of what I've been talking about is like, if you've got ambitions, even if sometimes you're a bit pretentious about it, it's like, how dare you? How dare you? It's like, I don't mind that. I'd rather that than just this lack of ambition, and you end up with films like Extraction 2, which are completely a waste of time and are completely brainless. I'd much rather have something a bit crazy and ambitious than like this. So even though it's, as a film, it doesn't quite come together, it's still easily defendable to me because it aims high and there's a lot of charming stuff in the way. The performances are good and fun. Everyone knows what they're doing. It's well directed. Like, everything kind of works apart from the certain clunkiness with ideas and how they present the ideas. And I think it's just a case of it's a way you introduce certain things and how you suggested certain things that could have been done smoother, that have got the idea across in a way that meant it wasn't so back-ended to the end where you suddenly felt you're going to preach to, rather than, well, that's the conclusion we have to reach to, and it's like, okay, that's where we're going. I think it's just a case of everything getting pushed to the back to explain things, and then it was just too much at once, and it was like, are you giving me a lecture about this? That's the big problem, the structure of the film. There's not much you can do about it. It's just that's the way they wrote it, and there's like, I think they should have paused it for 6 months and just finessed the script to get that stuff done a bit earlier and a lot more subtle. So it could still be an idea-led film. I'm not saying give it the ideas, I'm just saying maybe if they'd done it more subtly in the build-up, it'd have felt a lot less preachy and it'd have been more emotionally connected to people. Because at the end it seems it stops and they're telling you what you should feel rather than suggesting what you should feel just as part of the story. That's kind of the thing that's the problem with this film is like why the preaching kind of becomes a problem, because it does the thing that some science fiction does when it's got a lot of ideas, is it just stops the film and explains things, which is a big, I mean, Matrix Reloaded did that thing with the architect speech and people were like, what the hell's all this? I understood it perfectly, but I understood why people were like, it's a dump of too much information. It's the same kind of problem this film has. It's like, you could have subtly suggested things so there's less to see in that moment and would have been a bit more accepting of it, or the general audience. I didn't have a problem with it being a bit preachy, but I know it did feel that it was a barrier to your emotional attachment to the story. So it's that problem. It happens. Doesn't mean you have to trash the whole film that's very charming because of one flaw. Which is, I think, the problem this film had was like, it get trashed for supposed pretension and preachiness when it was like, it's just a good-natured film that has a few flaws. That's a lot better than a lot of the films out there just now. I mean, give me this over what they've been doing Star Wars or Star Trek recently. That's so much better. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you actually go and see Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland is a good film. It's got its flaws, but it is worth seeing. So I hope this video gets you to go watch it. Right, bye for now.